Released at the end of 1967, John Wesley Harding by Bob Dylan is one of those records that seems straightforward at first. It has a reputation as a calm, modest album, the sound of someone stepping back from the spotlight. The language looks simpler on the page, and yet what it describes is often more baffling. It's an album built on deliberate gaps, crooked parables, and a quiet refusal to explain itself. Hello, I'm Shane, and this is Take 55 Sound, the sister channel to Take 55, where I discuss cinema. Here I talk about records through feeling, memory, theme, and symbolism. John Wesley Harding is often referred to as a back-to-basics record, and yet it turns out to be just as complex and just as profoundly befuddling as the more celebrated and surreal Blonde on Blonde. The difference is that this time the weirdness is compressed and disguised. The key line appears in the Ballad of Frankie Lee and Judas Priest, a song where the setup feels like a morality tale. We spend verse after verse following these two characters as they chase money, lust, and a very dubious idea of paradise. You expect a clear lesson at the end, but instead it's the little neighbor boy who summarizes everything by muttering, "Nothing is revealed." These songs are full of saints, outlaws, and archetypes, but Dylan never explains how you're meant to receive them. And you hear that right from the title track. Dylan takes a historical outlaw, John Wesley Harding, and quietly adds a G to his name. For once he isn't dropping the letter the way that he does with Blowing in the Wind, for instance. The real Harding was a cruel, violent figure, but the man in the song is a folk guardian. John Wesley Harding was a friend to the poor. He traveled with a gun in every hand. There's no gesture he can't make that isn't armed, permanently dangerous, and yet somehow he's still on the side of the weak. That tiny spelling change is a kind of mischief. It tells you that history here is raw material, not fixed account, and that Dylan is writing his own American scripture. As I Went Out One Morning, my favourite track on the album, has a distinctive bass line that gives it a quiet momentum. The narrator goes out and meets the fairest damsel. He offers her his hand, but she takes him by the arm and won't let go, until Tom Paine turns up and shouts at this lovely girl. Tom Paine here isn't just a random name. He's the American revolutionary, a voice of political conscience who suddenly walks into a dreamlike love song. Dylan pulls on that line about her grip, stretching it just past where you expect, like someone trying to stay measured while a situation tips away from them. The language looks plain, but the emotional geometry is strange. We never find out what the girl has done or why Tom Paine says he's sorry for it. It's a song about temptation and guilt where the central crime is left blank. Dear Landlord is where the sound shifts. It's the first piano song on the record. The rhythm rocks very slightly, the chords roll under the vocal, and the lyric is basically a confrontation. It sounds like he's addressing a landlord on paper, but it could be to anyone who has had power over you. Dylan later says, "Dear Landlord, please heed these words that I speak." Blurring the exact method of address. The closing lines, "And if you don't underestimate me, I won't underestimate you." Sound polite and exhausted at the same time. There's no raised voice, but you can hear the strain in every bar. Listening to it now, it feels like the predecessor of the bare, anguished textures that would later turn up 3 years later on John Lennon's Plastic Ono Band album. The Wicked Messenger takes that unease and it turns it into something almost purely musical. The lyric is another biblical fragment on an album filled with them. But what I always hear first is the twinned bass and guitar riff. It circles in these odd little single-note runs, rising and dropping, like a thought that keeps looping back on itself. The whole song feels like it's stuck in motion, a portrait of someone defined entirely by the messages that they carry with no inner life, just this nervous, circling duty. The album closes on a more relaxed note with "I'll Be Your Baby Tonight," After all the mythical figures, the album rolls out with a song that has rightly become a standard. The voice that spent an album talking in parables is suddenly speaking directly to one person. It's always felt to me like the quiet doorway into Dylan's next album, Nashville Skyline, and the back cover of the album gives another way in. Dylan outlines a scene involving three kings and a man called Frank. The kings say that they've heard Frank is the key to Dylan's new record of original songs. So they ask him to open it up for them, and when he does, he asks how far do they want to go. Not too far, but just far enough so as we can say that we've been there. It feels like a joke about critics and listeners who want access without effort, but it also feels like a quiet guide to this album. John Wesley Harding will let you go as far as you want into its saints and outlaws and baffling parables, but it won't do the work for you. You decide how far to go, far enough so as you can say you've been there.